Well, good evening. I'm David Godley, Chair of the College, and I think we can just about make a start now. We're fashionably 5 minutes late. Firstly, I'll just confirm that we have a quorum, and we've received 183 apologies or notifications of proxy anyway, so we can convene the meeting. Second item on the agenda is confirmation of minutes of the previous AGM. Now, these have been online for a while, so I'd suggest that we take them as read. Would anyone like to move that we adopt these minutes? Al, seconder? Jasmine, thank you. All in favour? Any against? Okay, well, that's a good start. Passed. Is there any business arising from the minutes of the previous meeting? Nope. Okay, we can move on. Next item is the Executive Committee report on the activities of the College since the last AGM and our intentions for the coming year. Now, Adrian's actually written an excellent summary of what we've done and what we plan to do, and that will be posted online. I'll just touch on a few highlights of this report. Firstly, briefly, regarding branch size, Adrian tells me that we're the 12th largest branch measured by fellow numbers currently and have been in that position for a few years. We now rub shoulders with orthopedic surgery and public health. It used to be ENT and eyes for many years, so I guess that's progress. Just thinking on this recently, I don't have exact data, but by my estimate, we'd be around about the 7th largest branch of the 30 that Council recognises as measured by total doctor numbers. Our branch is unusual in that we have just about as many registrars as fellows. And yeah, by that measure, I think we'd be one of the larger branches. So again, this was a very busy and productive year for the college. One of the highlights for me was the launch of the new website and crest. And although these are only superficial things, it's very pleasing to have a royal crest that's in keeping with other medical colleges and enables the casual viewer to see at a glance what we're about. The website, I think, is outstanding. The look and feel of it is excellent. We're continuously trying to improve the way the information is presented and trying to make it clearer and easier to find. But I think it's a very professional looking website. It's been very carefully thought out and with the needs of the main users front of mind, the fellows, the registrars, those others with an interest in urgent care, and finally those interested in clinic audits all can, I think, quite readily find what they need to know from our website. So that's a good, solid advance in the last 12 months. It took us a long time. I think our first attempt at a website was back around about 1995, but finally I think we can say that we've gotten it right. This is a tribute to those involved, and I'd like to especially mention Hadi, Adrian, Afrez, and Ileri Clissold in particular for their efforts. And I think that's the first gesture of spontaneous applause we've ever had at an AGM, so that that says something. I hope I haven't left anybody out. Speaking of affairs, we now have 2 doctors working in the office, one looking after the needs of registrars, which is Dave Storrell, and a new one, Director of Professional Development, which is Afraz, taking care of fellows issues. Amongst many other things, Afraz has a habit of putting his hand up for other things that involve particularly social activities and travel outside Auckland. And I think we can safely say that both these aspects of his work have created considerable benefit for the college. So yes, thank you, Afraz, and a belated welcome. Now, the Skills Demonstration and Assessment Weekend is something else that we brought in this year to replace the Practical Skills Weekend. The Practical Skills Weekend, as its name implies, attempted to teach some practical skills to registrars. It was compulsory, and the skills that were taught tended to differ from year to year. After some thought last year, we decided it would be better if we identified all the skills that all our registrars needed to know in order to become fellows, made a list of these, and made sure that each registrar was competent in each one of these skills before attending fellowship. So we've changed that. We've brought in the SDAW, as we call it, Skills Demonstration and Assessment Weekend, at which we teach about half of these key skills, and we give registrars the opportunity to demonstrate competence. The remaining skills, they can demonstrate competence in other ways, including to their supervisor. And there's a skills list that each registrar must sign off. I think this is another strong advance in the quality of our training for the college. Finally, last item is a big thank you to our office staff, our general manager, Adrian, his support crew, Alex and Hadi, and our Director of Clinical Training and Director of Professional Development, Dave and Afraz, and to my fellow exec members for their hard work through the year. Adrian, is there anything you want to add to the report? Is there anything you want to add to the report?
I think you've done a great job, David. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Adrian. Yeah. Okay, the next item is the annual financial reports. Oh, yeah, okay. Yes, John Eddy would like to speak about the Australian faculty of our college. John.
In 1997, I left the hospital system to start a dual fellowship in urgent care and general practice, and started at St Luke's A&E under Alistair Sullivan. At the same time, I realised that I had to do some time in general practice to get the dual fellowship. And I remember the GP that I was working for at the time, I had a chat to him, I said, wouldn't it be good if we had urgent care and general practice under the same roof, because it would be great to serve the community in this way, and then I'd only have to work in one place to get the dual fellowships. He said, that will never happen. Next year, I met Richard Selkin. He asked me to start the urgent care centre at Westgate. Fast forward things 20 years, I'm in Australia, and I want to introduce Associate Professor Evan Jones. Can you stand up, Evan? Evan's probably the foremost brain in Australia for integrated primary care, and he'd be as close to a benefactor of the Royal New Zealand College of Urgent Care that Australia knows. And he's opened up so many doors for the cause of the Royal New Zealand College of Urgent Care. He's also just built a $100 million Bunnings conversion where there's 90 GP rooms, 38-bed urgent care centre with ambulance diversion, FACEMS, nurse practitioner. We've got clinical trials where the fit-out's worth $2 million. He's just about to put dialysis, gastroscopy, colonoscopy, day oncology and operating theatres in there. So it's something to behold. But Evan, he has developed this urgent care service, and he's getting the notice of everybody around Australia, including governments and colleges, which is making my job for the college a whole lot easier. This next year, I've been tasked to add urgent care services to 75 clinics around Australia for the corporate Helios. So the urgent care banner for the Royal New Zealand College of Urgent Care will be continued to be flown through that work. So there's 5 areas that I'd like to talk about tonight, just that we've been doing. The first is networking. The second is some research, peer group, the accelerated pathway, 2019 plans, and just a couple of key areas that we need to potentially talk about, whether it's today or the discussions that follow, just so that we can hopefully get some more traction in Australia. So with networking, the first networking event was in June. The Urgent Care College paid for Evan and I and some other doctors to meet the Federal Health Minister, the Honourable Greg Hunt. He met with us for an hour. He's very keen on urgent care. He said that it would solve a lot of problems in Australia. He did say that he wouldn't be keen to progress it unless we had really a relationship with either the RACGP or ACRIM, so both would be better. And he said that he would arrange a meeting with the Chief Medical Officer of Health, the Long-Term Health Review Task Force reform, and also the Medicare benefits schedule. So that was meeting with Greg Hunt. The second was a presentation at the Health Roundtable. So the Health Roundtable exists to serve hospitals around Australia and New Zealand. There's 178 hospitals that subscribe to that. They come in and they sort out the problems that the hospital's having, and one of them is the Category 3s, 4s and 5s presenting to emergency departments. The keynote speech that I had with the local hospital was looking at integrated primary care centres and how they could partner with hospitals to make life a lot easier. What we suggested is that urgent care centres need to be open extended hours, at least 8 till 8. We get that from New Zealand. We need to have skill sets that are not just urban general practice, even though urgent general practice is important. We need people like fellows of the Royal College. We need nurses from ED. We need people with management skills not necessarily being developed in general practice to come and share that business knowledge with us. That's from New Zealand. We need alternative funding sources like POAC, because we don't have that in Australia. So we suggested that, another New Zealand thing. And the last thing that we suggested is that doctors in large clinics need to sit down with local hospital boards and ask them how we can be their hands and feet, how we can serve them, because if we do those 4 things, integrated primary care in Australia with urgent care will work like a treat. It works here. I think it's going to work in Australia as well. In June, we got to talk to Bill Shorten. He's probably going to be the Prime Minister of Australia this year. He came around the hub. It was really interesting. I turned up to show him around. The TV cameras are there. He says, "Gosh, you're tall." I said, "It comes in handy on the basketball court." He says, "You can be in my basketball team any day." And that's the bit that went on the news. So it was good to show him around. And the Shadow Health Minister, Kath King, has been up a few times as well. She is keen on urgent care. So we do have bipartisan support. They are prepared to fund a trial of urgent care in Australia and study that. In July, I presented at the ANZ National Health Conference. So there's the opportunity to present to 100 bankers that went around all the general practices and integrated primary care centres of Australia. So we presented things like urgent care and the evidence base for that and experience, fracture clinic, hospital in the home, POAC, those sorts of things. Because in Australia there's been a Medicare freeze for a number of years, and any alternative source of funding for clinics is received with open arms. So it's good to get other people to do your work for you and go out to all the general practices, and that was the idea with that. In October, the college paid for me to attend the RACGP conference. I got to have a little bit of time with Harry Nesplin. He's the new president. He's actually set up urgent care centres in Sydney, and he said he was very keen to talk about a relationship with our college and also with urgent care, but he wanted that to be in integrated primary care. He didn't really see a future with freestanding urgent care centres in Australia. So, you know, we think about these things, pushing a way forward to see if we can get things over the line. The meeting that the Minister Greg Hunt promised to organise with the Chief Medical Officer of Health, which was Prof Brandon Murphy, the Chair of the Medical Benefits Review, Prof Bruce Robertson, and the Long-Term Health Reform, Evan and I sat down and did a teleconference with them. We presented some things that we would like them to consider. The first, and this is really important, is that those with the fellowship from New Zealand and registrars be allowed to claim MBS item numbers. So we asked because a lot of fellows have rung up and said, can we get work in Australia with our fellowship? At the moment, you don't get the VR rate, so it doesn't really make it cost effective. But we asked them to consider that. We also asked if the Royal New Zealand College of Urgent Care standard, which is also registered in Australia, could become the standard for urgent care clinics in Australia. So they listened to that. We asked if new item numbers could be admitted to the MBS claiming, and things like the POAC, the IV antibiotics and the IV fluids and item numbers for COPD and asthma. And the last thing we asked for is that FACEMs, because we've got FACEMs working for us at the moment, if when the ambulance brought the patient in, or if the patient came in through the urgent care door, if they were allowed to claim vocationally registered rates, because at the moment they can't. Unless they're referred by a GP or a nurse practitioner, they can't. So he's considering that. He wrote and he thanked us for our input, and we're just waiting to see what happens as far as that's concerned. The last networking event I had was in November, so that was a teleconference with Dr. Ewan McPhee. He's the new president of the Australian College of Rural and Remote Medicine. I see a lot of future in a relationship with ACRIM, because I think their fellows, especially the ones in their 40s and 50s that don't really want to do the rural and remote stuff anymore, I think they'll be fantastic in urgent care and integrated primary care centres. So that's the networking. As far as the research is concerned, Evan has got together a number of GPs and academics to look at an urgent care trial. And this is really exciting because we're doing a few papers on urgent care, which I'll talk about later, but he's brought together University of Queensland, which I think is the 4th top university in Australia, the Queensland University of Technology, the University of the Sunshine Coast, and we've got some key academics. One's a FACEM, one's the ex-president of the RACGP from UQ. We're looking to raise $3 million to get some leverage behind this, and we're hoping to go for an NH and MRC grant, which is like the Olympic Games of funding for trials. So we're really wanting to really put urgent care on the map and provide a literature basis, a research basis for urgent care, because there's just not much in the literature on it. We ran a peer group, mostly from my room through Zoom or Skype, so that continues. The accelerated pathway, we're involved in that. One of our FACEMs, she's the founding president of the Australasian College of Emergency Medicine. She's also managed Prince Charles, Royal Brisbane and Caboolture hospitals. She's got her 20 notes review to do, then she becomes a fellow of the Royal New Zealand College of Urgent Care. So it's exciting to have FACEMs that are academics and professors and FACEMs that have been in major leadership roles, really excited about the college and even some of them becoming fellows. So I'm really happy to report that. Plans for 2019, we want to continue networking so that the fellows from the Royal New Zealand College of Urgent Care can gain MBS item numbers, which means that when you go to Australia, you can claim like GPs and earn like GPs, because then it makes it worth your while. We want to continue networking with the colleges, especially RACGP, ACRM, and the Australian College of Emergency Medicine. With the 75 urgent care services around Australia, we want to help Healius add to those. They also have a Healius Institute. This is really interesting. The RACGP have contracted Healius to write their educational materials. I'm required to do the ones for the urgent care. RACGP has also been approached by the Chinese government to help train 500,000 GPs in the next 11 years. So there's potentially a role for that, but we'll just see how that goes. And as far as the research is concerned, we'll continue working on the urgent care trial. I've got a couple of papers in my PhD, which I'll hopefully finish by the end of the year, comparing hospital to urgent care clinics in southeast Queensland. Last thing I wanted to mention is the key areas moving forward, and there's two. The first is, and we've talked about this before, is the need for us to be able to claim item numbers from Medicare. If that doesn't happen, it'll be important to do it as I've done with my training, is to do the dual fellowship at the same time. When I did it, there was about an 80-90% crossover, so a lot of the stuff I did for the Royal New Zealand College of Urgent Care exam was in the Royal New Zealand College of Urgent Care stuff, so there's a lot of crossover, so doing it at the same time meant that there was not a whole lot more work, but we'd rather it to be that urgent care fellows could come across the ditch and just claim the item numbers. The second is the potential accelerated pathway for those with either the ACRM qualification or the FAR GP. The FAR GP is the Advanced Rural GP qualification. So in Australia, you've got these rural and remote specialists. They run hospitals, they run fracture clinics, they do all the trauma and the resus. And the interesting thing is, when I went to Australia, after having done the fellowship for Royal New Zealand College of Urgent Care, I was a registrar in trauma and emergency at Royal Adelaide. I didn't have the trauma skills and the resus skills to be able to do that role very well, and I couldn't really be a country GP until I'd spent 6 months in the ED developing those. But the ACRM and the FAR GP people, a lot of these guys are GP anaesthetists, they do retrievals, they run emergencies, they do everything that an urgent care specialist does. So just, something to put it out there. If we could get those people potentially on an accelerated pathway, like the ASIM people, all of a sudden your numbers are going to jump because a whole lot of them want to do it, and you're going to have a lot of people that can potentially come into town and run these big integrated primary care centres. So I think that would be an important part of a way forward, is looking at that accelerated pathway for those GPs. So thank you for your time, and thank you for the opportunity to represent you in Australia. And if there's any questions, please fire away.
Well, thanks, John. That's all very, very positive. Just an answer to your question about accelerated pathway to fellowship for ACRM doctors and what are they called, FAR GPs. Let's talk. That sounds interesting. I think the point you made about being able to claim the Medicare benefits obviously is very important, and to be honest, that's what led to the growth of our branch in the very, very early days. So good luck with that. But it sounds like you're making good progress, meeting the right people and making all the right demands. That's good. Next item is the annual financial reports for the financial years. We have 2 financial years now because we changed our financial year. So this is from 1st of April 2017 to 31st March 2018, and from the 1st of April 18 until the new end of financial year date of 31st December 2018. Richard, would you like to talk to these?
Thanks, David. As you stated, this is very unusual. This year we've got two reports, which you both should have a copy of. One finishes on the 31st of March 2018, and we've changed our accounting year to finish on the 31st of December 2018, because that fits in with how we basically get our money from Health Work for Force New Zealand and how the registrars start and finish. So it fits in with our year. So this year it's slightly confusing because we have a 12-month report, a financial report, and we have a 9-month financial report. And if you wish, you can go through that and answer any questions. And I can answer any questions if you like. Traditionally, we try and run at a bit of a break even, and some years we make a slight surplus, and other years we make a slight loss. According to this, we're going to make a surplus till 31st of March 2018 of 81,000, and then the following 9 months deficit of 115,000. But that deficit is slightly, because it's a 9-month reporting period, it's not as great as it would seem, and probably next year will be about a $60,000 deficit. We have got a lot of money in the bank from previous years, and so financially your college is in a good position. And I don't think I'll go to any more specifics than that. Is there any questions about the two financial reports? I don't think I'll say too much more.
All right, well, thank you to our outgoing treasurer for that report. Would someone like to move that we adopt these two sets of financial reports? Stuart, a seconder? Oh, Celine, thank you. All those in favour? Any against? Okay, carried. The next item is the membership year fee for the current year. This has been voted on by email, and the proposal that the college membership fee remain at $1,070 plus GST has passed. Are there any votes from the floor on this? Two votes. Okay, in favour? Against? In favour? Okay. All right, well, I declare that motion carried, and the college membership fee will remain at $1,070 plus GST for the year beginning on the 1st of April 2019. Next item is our college strategy for the next 5 years. This was the result of some consultation with the members and other groups, and a strategy day that we held earlier this year. I'll declare here that I'm not a great enthusiast of this kind of process of developing a long-term plan. I'm reminded of what the greatest poet the world has known, Robbie Burns, had to say about it, which is he happens to be Scottish, that the best laid plans of mice and men gang after gley often go awry, that means. But anyway, we are sort of expected to and kind of obliged to do this, and we've done it. And I have to say, some useful ideas have come out of it, and we'll have to just see how our plans go over the next 5 years. Once again, the strategy document has been voted on electronically, and there's overwhelming support. Are there any votes cast at the meeting, Hattie? Two further, in favour, against? Both in favour. Okay, well, I therefore declare the college strategy document to be adopted and passed. Is there any other business? Stuart. Okay, would you like to elaborate? Right, so this is increased emphasis on advocacy for Rnzcuc members. in a union sense? Yeah. Yes. Right. So sustainability in an ecological sense in our approach to how we do things. We certainly have considered that and have taken concrete steps to reduce our carbon footprint. Adrian, you've been involved in that.
Certainly inside the college, yes, but we're talking about whether we make a change to the strategy that's as a result of that. Is that what we're talking about?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I think, again, we did consult, I think, with all members in formulating the strategy. And I think it's also important that we note both these points in the minutes of the meeting and give them further consideration, because they're both important topics. Yeah. Okay. Any other business? Okay. Well, the final item is the election of members of the Executive Committee. And under our new method of election, we have one officer position, the officers being the chairperson, the treasurer, and the secretary, one officer position for election, and two other members of the committee that were voted on this year. Only one person stood for treasurer, and actually, firstly, Harry, were there any votes from the meeting? Yep, we have two additional votes cast from the floor, and they don't affect the outcome of the election. So I therefore declare Steve Adams as our new treasurer. And for the other members, elect Jude Walsh and Guy Melrose. Congratulations. And commiserations to the other two candidates. We may be in touch. Okay, well, that was the. I'd like to just say a few words about the departing and incoming members before they go. Firstly, Rob's not here. Rob Crawford's been with this college pretty well since it started. And from memory, he's convened the Professional Standards Committee, served on the Education Committee, and he was very heavily involved in creating the original urgent care course and the OSCE component of our exam. As I mentioned last year, one of Rob's most valuable contributions to the college, in my opinion, was, along with Al Sullivan, to have the determination to just keep going in what were some of the college's most difficult times. In the late 1990s, Council were really quite against us being a branch, or so it seemed to us. And as I might have mentioned last year, they told us first that our training wasn't good enough, and then we developed a training program. They were satisfied with that. And then they told us they were concerned that we weren't different enough from general practice. So we really did feel that we were up against it. And in these sort of darkest times, it was really Rob and Al, I think, who were the most determined to and had the most perseverance of all the members on the steering committee at that time, and enabled us to sort of keep going as a college. And we did overcome these obstacles. So I just want to sort of thank, in particular, Rob for his positivity and determination and all the contributions that he's made over the years. One of our other two departing members is Larry Cleasold, and she's in stark contrast to Rob and to Al. She's only been with us for a year, was appointed to give registrars a voice, and as I mentioned before, she's also helped with the website and made many other valuable contributions at a committee level over the years. So, Larry, thank you. Finally, somebody who is here, Richard Powell. Richard, like Rob, has been here since the college's earliest days, over 20 years, I think. And for most of that time, Richard has served as treasurer. Richard and I were actually partners in a clinic many years ago, and I have to say that I found Richard to be quite tight, even by my standards. He's carried this over to the way that the college, his contribution to the college, and I think he's served us quite well as a counterpoint to the free spending ways of some of the other members. And at a college level, that would have to include myself. I was always a yes for spending on this and that, and Richard was always the voice of reason. We found some ground in the middle. This is not a complete farewell, though. Richard's volunteered to carry on as the Facility Audit Subcommittee Convener. So this is the group that generally looks at the fitness of our training facilities to be training facilities and their compliance or otherwise with the urgent care standard. So Richard, for your contribution over the years, thank you very much, and we've got some flowers for you. I will just mention again Efraz and Dave Sorrell, who are also standing down from the exec, but very much this is not a farewell to them because they are continuing on at the office as Director of Professional Development and Director of Clinical Training. But thank you again very much, Efraz and Dave, for your contributions. So out with the old and in with the new. Steve is our new treasurer, and this is actually a welcome back to Steve because many of you will not know that Steve has actually served on the executive for I think it was the early 2000s, about 5 years approximately. Steve has been our go-to person while on the committee and actually after leaving the committee for academic matters, and he's been heavily involved with our case studies research project and made a very valuable contribution to the committee, and I'm very pleased to see him back in the fold. And welcome also to our other two new members, Guy Melrose and Jude Walsh. All right, well that's the final item of business, so I declare the meeting closed. Thank you all.